When you're getting ready for a photo shoot for book covers, there's a few things to keep in mind. Hey guys, I'm Vanessa. Welcome to my channel. I like to do self-portraits, book covers, basically anything that is creative photography related that I can also do all by myself because I'm really introverted and I love working alone. So when I started shooting specifically for book covers, a few years back, I made a lot of mistakes. And this video is really about the mindset that you're going to have when going into a shoot and kind of like your checklist of things that you want to keep in mind. This is going to help you be more effective, make the most of your shoots, get more usable images, and hopefully increase your sales or even get the ball rolling if you're completely new. This is just one in a series of videos that I'm doing about book cover photography. So if you're all caught up on all my previous videos, by now you should have a general idea about book cover photography, know if you want to be working with a stock agency site or freelancing, and also narrowed down to a book cover genre or genres that you want to be shooting for. I'm going to be assuming that you have picked a genre for your book cover photography shoot. You have your props, your models, whatever else you need lined up based on the genre research that you have done. And now you're ready to take pictures and want to maximize this photo shoot to get the most out of your time and effort. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is something that has become second nature to me in all of my shooting. Even when I'm just taking photos of my kids, I tend to do this because it doesn't hurt to not do it. And that's to compose my image to have lots of copy space or negative space. And if these terms are new to you, what that means is basically just an area of the image that is pretty open. There's nothing important happening there and will make a really great placement for titles, taglines, and author names. These are all things that every book cover is going to require. So shooting with extra space doesn't hurt because, of course, you can always crop it smaller if you're using the image for something else. That doesn't mean that you always have to be shooting like really far away. Having lots of copy space means that even when you are getting in close, like say on a face, you're going to be looking for a nice blank area. So for example, I shoot the half side of my face quite a lot, and the idea is that this area can be a great copy space spot for a title. So even though it's a nice close-up shot of my face, I'm still taking into consideration an area that's going to be fairly large and blank. The second thing that has become almost second nature to me and is probably a little bit strange for a lot of other photographers is that I shoot in almost exclusively a vertical position. Because book covers are vertical in their overall design, it is the most obvious way to shoot. That doesn't mean that you only have to shoot in vertical, because just like I mentioned with having a lot of space, people can always crop the image to suit their needs. So if you have horizontal images and it can be easily cropped into a vertical format, that's totally fine. But I've just trained my eye to think book covers. So when I am shooting, I tend just to shoot in vertical and keep my eye out for a lot of negative copy space. So if you did your genre research, you probably noticed that there's not a lot of covers that directly show a clear, accurate depiction of the model's face. A lot of the times there are things that are cropped, so there is no head at all, or the face is obscured in some way. Maybe it has hair coming across, or maybe there is some prop in the face, or some Photoshop technique like blurring that has been applied to the image to obscure the face. This is really common in almost any genre, just because it can be a little unnerving to the reader if their imagination picture of the character doesn't fit the book cover. I know that this has actually happened to me, so I understand why publishers want to do that. It's kind of like when they turn a book into a movie, and a lot of the hardcore book fans don't really like the actor or actresses they chose. It's mostly because they don't fit what they imagined. So publishers want to avoid that disconnection by giving a more vague sense of who the character is. So when you're shooting, you want to take this into account and provide a lot of options as far as making that person less recognizable. Now, this is a far departure if you're coming from a portrait background. In the field of like lifestyle and family portraiture, you're trying to depict that person as much as you possibly can. They want to be recognizable. They want to be able to hand this out to their friends and family, and they will know who that person is. So if you're making the switch from a family portrait photographer into shooting people for book covers, there might be a little bit of a struggle there, but it can definitely be done. And of course, this is not an absolute hard rule. There are still book covers that clearly show a face. It does happen. So my tip to you would be take some that are clear, but take a lot of different variety as far as you can, with some obscuring or turning their face to the side, or even having them turn around in the back of the head. Just like you want to have a wide variety of composition, you're gonna want to have a bit of variety in the expression as well. Not a lot of book covers feature a model that is smiling. It does happen, especially when the book is more lighthearted. Maybe it's a romance novel or something a little bit flirty. And kind of like I said, if you're coming from a family portrait background, you're probably asking the model to smile all the time. However, a lot of the expressions you're going to want to get for this are not smiling. So maybe looking worried if it's something like a suspense and there's a kidnapping or something. The person could look sad. The person could look contemplative. There's a lot of other moods and feelings and expressions that you're going to want to explore in your shoot. Of course, if you are shooting a straight-on thriller type image, you can exclude like a happy smiling look. I mean, that's obvious, but if it fits with the genre, like for example, you are shooting something in a more historical manner, you could probably do something that's a little bit more serious tone or a little bit more lighthearted tone, because you never know, the mood of the book could be a little bit on the lighter side. So make sure you include all the relevant facial expressions that you can think of for your shoot. At your book cover photo shoot, you're going to be paying attention to details. So for example, if you decided to shoot for historical and you have gotten the appropriate clothing for the era, there are things such as the background and details, like maybe the model's wearing nail polish and nail polish wasn't a thing back then, that you need to be aware of at your photo shoot. So make sure that you're always paying attention to what's around and also small things that are going on in your image. I personally shoot for book covers, but I also just kind of do like artistic stuff and personal projects, and I like to make the most of my shoots by combining them all. I have an example of doing that in a behind the scenes photo shoot video that you can check out, which leads me into the number one thing that I did wrong when I started shooting for book covers. I was really excited to do creative photography, and I would get this idea in my head of one specific image that I wanted to create, and that is what I shot for. I don't know how many times my stock agency has emailed me and said, hey, we have somebody interested in this image from like 3 years ago. It's not quite right. Do you have anything else that's similar? And I don't, because I was just shooting for that one image. So I've definitely learned that on a shoot to take a lot of variety. Do not shoot for just that one magical photo. My composite photography is an example of when I am shooting for just one photo. It's not realistic to do an entire shoot like that, because technically I'm shooting all these different elements and then they have to fit together. And if I want to make more than one image, then I have to shoot like the 10 elements from different angles separately So I'd end up with a whole lot of different elements and pictures of myself to try and mix and match, which is a huge pain in the butt. So I designed my shoots to include one composite photo, but then I also try to make it relevant for book covers, and then I do a shoot for book covers. That works really well for me because then I'm getting all areas of what I'm working towards. I do submit my art photos to my stock agency, but they're not specifically targeted to book covers. So what am I doing with these on the side? Well, aside from growing my Instagram audience and really using it as a way to connect with other creatives, I also put them on print on demand sites so that they can get printed on mugs and things, and I make a few bucks doing that as well. I don't know if this is true for every single stock agency ever, but I suspect that for the book cover industry, their contract is only specific to publishing. So I know that I do have the right to sell those images as prints, as products, basically in any other way other than licensing them for covers. For example, pretend I wrote a book and I wanted to use my image on my own book. That's still in the book publishing industry, and I would have to go through my own stock site to do that. But if I wanted a t-shirt or something printed, it's no problem at all. I have full rights and copyright to my own work. So I can enter these photos in contests. I've printed them and had them on display in local places like my library. I've also had a photo display at a London Drugs before. So I have a lot of freedom with my images still, even though I am licensing them for book covers. The images that I specifically take with like heads cropped off and stuff like that for book covers, I mean, honestly, I could technically still use them for prints and stuff, but most of the time, they're too book covery to really have a multiple purpose, unlike the art images that I create. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because somebody asked about it, and I really probably should have mentioned it in my video about working with a stock agency, but it was something that I didn't get to because that's a huge topic and I knew I was going to miss a few things. I've got more book cover photography videos coming. So subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when they're released. Check out my playlist of the book cover photography videos that I've already created. Thank you for being here. Have a great day.